This weekend we're celebrating Lord Nrsimha Deva's appearance. So we'll start our celebration tonight. By speaking from the 5th canto, a verse speaking about Prahlad Maharaj. And how can you separate Lord Nrsimha from Prahlad Maharaj? So this chapter is entitled The Residents of Jambudvip Offer Prayers. The 5th canto is making you aware of many dimensions in the universe beyond your perception. So you're being educated about what is beyond the range of ordinary earthling perception. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 I'll just read the prose straight. Hari Varshe Chapi Bhagavan Nara Hari Rupenakte Ta Rupa Grahan Nimitam Uttaratra Bidasye Ta Daitam Rupam Mahapurusha Guna Bhajano Mahabhagavato Daicha Danavakula Tirti Karana Shila Charita Pralado Devadana Nanya Bhakti Yogena Sahata Varsha Purushaya Upaste Idam Choda Harati. So we'll do the word for word, Hari Varshe.
Hari Varshe.
In the tract of land known as Hari Varsha. Cha, also. Api, indeed. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Narahari Rupena, his form of Nrsimha Dev. Aste is situated. Tarupa Grahana Nimitam. The reason why Lord Krishna, Keshava, assumed the form of Nrsimha. Uttaratra in later chapters. Abhidasya, I shall describe. Tat, that. Daitam, most pleasing. Rupam, form of the Lord. Mahapurusha Guna Bhajana. Prahlada Maharaja, who is the abode of all the good qualities of great personalities. Mahabhagavata, the topmost devotee. Daicha Danava Kula Tirti Karana Shila Charita, whose activities and character were so exalted that he delivered all the daichas, demons, born in his family. Prahlada, Maharaja Prahlada, Avyavadana Ananya Bhakti Yogena, by uninterrupted and unflinching devotional service. Saha, with Tat Varsha Purushai, the inhabitants of Harivarsha, Upaste, offers obeisances to and worships. Idam, this, cha, and udaharati, chants. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami continued, my dear king, he's speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, Lord Nrsimha resides in the tract of land known as Harivarsha. In the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I shall now describe to you how Prahlada Maharaja caused the Lord to assume the form of Nrsimha. Prahlada Maharaja, the topmost devotee of the Lord, is a reservoir of all the good qualities of great personalities. His character and activities have delivered all the fallen members of his demoniac family. Lord Nrsimha is very dear to this exalted personality. Thus, Prahlada Maharaja, along with his servants and all the denizens of Harivarsha, worships Lord Nrsimha by chanting the following mantra. So tomorrow we'll go to the next verse, which presents the mantra. This verse is pointing you that it's coming attraction. The denizens of Harivarsha worship Lord Nrsimha by chanting the following mantra. Some of you may have memorized that verse. The next one is a prayer to Lord Nrsimha, coming tomorrow. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jayadev Goswami's 10 prayers worshiping the incarnation of Lord Krishna, Keshava, contain his name in every stanza. Everyone's familiar with those 10 prayers, that song, Das Avatar by Jayadev Goswami, Keshava. You sing part of it in the Sringa prayers. You say Keshava Drita Narahari Rupa. For example, and now we hear some lines from that song by Jayadev Goswami. Keshava Drita Narahari Rupa, Jai Jagadisha Hare. Everyone knows that one. Keshava Drita Meena Sharira, Jai Jagadisha Hare. Meena means Matsya Avatar, fish incarnation. Keshava Drita Vamana Rupa, Jai Jagadisha Hare. Of course, Vamana Dev, the dwarf incarnation. The word Jagat Isha refers to the proprietor of all the universes. His original form is the two-handed form of Lord Krishna, standing with a flute in his hands and engaged in tending the cows. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Viksha Lakshavateshu Sudabhi Abhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shata Sambrahma Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desires, in abodes built with spiritual gems, and surrounded by millions of purpose trees. He's always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. From this verse, we learn that Govinda, or Krishna, is the Adi Purusha, the original person. The Lord has innumerable incarnations, exactly like the innumerable waves of a flowing river. But the original form is Krishna, or Keshava. Shukadeva Goswami refers to Nrsimha because of Prahlada Maharaj. Prahlada Maharaj was put into great distress by his powerful father, the demon Hiranyakashipu. Apparently helpless before him, Prahlada Maharaja called on the Lord, who immediately assumed the gigantic form of Nrsimha, half lion and half man, to kill the gigantic demon. Although Krishna is the original person, one without a second, he assumes different forms just to satisfy his devotees or to execute a specific purpose. Therefore, Jayadev Goswami always repeats the name of Keshava, the original personality of Godhead, in his prayers describing the Lord's different incarnations for different purposes. Translation again. Shukadeva Goswami continued, "My dear king, Lord Nrsimha resides in the tract of land known as Harivarsha. In the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I shall describe to you how Prahlada Maharaja caused the Lord to assume the form of Nrsimha. Prahlada Maharaja, the topmost devotee of the Lord, is a reservoir of all the good qualities of great personalities. His character and activities have delivered all the fallen members of his demoniac family. Lord Nrsimha is very dear to this exalted personality. Thus Prahlada Maharaja, along with his servants and all the denizens of Harivarsha, worships Lord Nrsimha by chanting the following mantra. Om Gyanachimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It is a great honor and privilege to speak about Krishna to all of you. And because of your devotional service, you purchase the right to hear about Krishna. That's your reward for all your endeavors. Chanting, hearing about Krishna, taking prasad. These are your billions, trillions of dollars of wealth. Always remember that after countless births and countless species of life, you get the chance to hear about Krishna in this human form of life. To be truly grateful, we must think, what did I do to deserve this? We didn't do anything to deserve it. We're receiving the inconceivable mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who gives the opportunity to engage in devotional service even to those who have no qualification. We've explained so many times that Krishna is very strict. He doesn't give out opportunities for his service so easily, because by pure devotional service, Krishna can be conquered. He can come under the control of his bhakta, of his devotee. You don't give out opportunities that would bring you under someone else's control so easily. Of course, in Kali Yuga, in the pursuit of sense gratification, anything goes. Yeah, take me, take everything. Do what you like with me. But ordinarily, and when your mind and senses are under control, you're very careful about who you confide in, who you allow to influence you. Of course, in this day and age of social media influencers, I saw one poll taken of young people in the USA. There's always polls and surveys going on in the USA. It's the land of polls and surveys. Half the young people say that they aspire to be a social media influencer. They think, wow, that'd be a great thing. That you can be famous for indulging in your own pleasures, and you get the chance to make everyone envious of you. Any of you here aspire to be an influencer? Social media influencer. You want to influence persons for Krishna's pleasure, but to be a narcissistic influencer. Let me show you my latest indulgences, my latest decadence. Are you ready? But here you have a chance to render service to Krishna. Never take it cheaply. The service may seem very ordinary. It may seem very humble, menial even sometimes. But after how many lifetimes did you get this opportunity? To get a human form, and then with that human form, you get a chance to serve Krishna. So in order to appreciate Lord Nrsimha and Prahlad Maharaj, in order to have gratitude for them, we need to understand that Lord Nrsimha didn't chiefly appear to terminate Hiranyakashipu. Everyone knows. Anyone here doesn't know about Lord Nrsimha, Hiranyakashipu? Almost everyone knows. It's there in the 7th canto. Been told so many times. So that's why tonight, we want to go into the Bhakti of Prahlad Maharaj. After all, this is the Bhakti Lounge. So what's so special about Prahlad Maharaj? Yes, he's so special that Keshava Drita Narahari Rupa, Narahari, in the rupa, the form of half man, half lion, appeared out of affection for Prahlad Maharaj. Not simply just to kill Hiranyakashipu. So what is this about? Shukadeva Goswami saying, my dear king, Lord Nrsimha resides in the tract of land known as Harivarsha. You thought all the Leela avatars, the pastime incarnations of the Lord, have their planet in Vaikuntha. They do. But they also have expansions in the material world. Vamanadev is there. In the material world, he has his place, all the incarnations. So Shukadeva Goswami is giving you the roundup. News roundup of the cosmos. There's a place called Harivarsha where Lord Nrsimha resides. And then, of course, later in the 7th canto, Shukadeva Goswami will describe how it was Prahlad Maharaja who caused Nrsimha to appear. Does Lord Nrsimha appear out of nowhere? No. He's eternal, but he manifests his presence from time to time. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives his schedule. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. Once every day of Brahma, Krishna comes. That doesn't mean Krishna is nothing before and then suddenly appears. And then when he disappears, he's nothing. What's the common example given? So you can understand Krishna's appearances and disappearances? Who knows? Huh? The sun. There's no sun visible now. Has the sun become extinct? Has it disappeared forever? No, it's disappeared from our sight. But then tomorrow, the sun will rise, you'll see it again. But meanwhile, other parts of the world have the vision, the darshan of the sun. What other parts of the world are seeing the sun now? India. No. All right, maybe still. If you can see through the smog in Delhi. The sun is always there, relatively speaking. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. Krishna is always present. Sometimes you see him, sometimes you don't. And most of the time when you see him, or when you do see him, most of the perceivers, the seers, don't know what they're looking at. You all have the confidence that if anyone would see Krishna, they would see Lord Chaitanya. Immediately they would be transformed. Not necessarily. You have to have qualification, or the Supreme Personality of God has to give you the qualification, or a devotee has to give you the qualification. Otherwise, what's right in front of your eyes, you won't recognize. So we want to become empowered to be able to detect the presence of Krishna. Krishna is there as his name. He's there as his pastimes, hearing about his activities. That's the presence of Krishna. When you take prasad, you're tasting the presence of Krishna. Just as when you hear about Krishna, you're hearing. You have his presence. With this kind of conviction, you can move forward at a rapid pace in bhakti. To be a pure devotee, it's a whole range of intensity. That's why in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in one purport, it's explained that even if a neophyte understands that Krishna is the same as his name, that neophyte is a pure devotee. So I was just thinking, in talking with one devotee earlier today, how much do we understand that our career is simply based on hearing the Hare Krishna mantra, hearing about Krishna's activities, and distributing them to others? It seems so simple. Yet because in Kali Yuga people are so unnecessarily complex, they miss out on the easiest way how to perfect their life. So we don't want to throw away our good fortune. That's why it's very important that we hear from Srimad Bhagavatam. It's equipping us with the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So yes, in the tract of land known as Harivarsha, Lord Nrsimha resides, as well as he has a planet in Vaikuntha. So Shukadeva Goswami wants you to know, before you get to the 7th canto, here you are in the 5th canto, he wants you to know that Lord Nrsimha appeared mainly because of the bhakti of Prahlad. Prahlad is described as a reservoir of all the good qualities of great personalities. I was reading one purport in Srimad Bhagavatam yesterday, where it said that from one point of view, a very important point of view, the only difference between a bhakta and a abhakta, a devotee of Krishna and a non-devotee, is that the devotee has good qualities. So from one important angle of vision, that's the only difference. Regardless of your belief system, as they say these days, I respect your belief system. Regardless of your precepts, what kind of qualities are you displaying? A main quality to be a devotee is forbearance, tolerance. And Prahlad Maharaja demonstrates that. His own father tried to torture him and terminate him. Prahlad didn't know what to make of it, you could say. Sometimes he thought his father was just playing with him. Like, you gotta be kidding, he's not really trying to kill me. Sometimes he thought, my father's just playing with me. Of course, the father, Hiranyakashipu, was deadly intent on killing his own son. Sounds horrible, and it is. But then you look at the world situation today, it's the same as always. People slaughtering people, having slaughtered billions of animals, they're now slaughtering each other, as always, under the banner of religion, under the banner of ethnicity, or just land grabs, money grabs. And who suffers the most? Not the professional war makers, the professional soldiers. Who suffers the most? The civilians, especially the women and children. That's what it comes down to. So Hiranyakashipu's cruelty is not so uncommon, although he was a terrorist on the cosmic scale. He's far beyond the terrorist leaders of today, whatever government. Hiranyakashipu terrorized the whole universe. So much so that the demigods, the devatas, in charge of the functions of nature, were afraid of Hiranyakashipu. In that way, Hiranyakashipu could actually take over the functions of nature because the devatas handed over the power to him. We're afraid. Okay, you make the wind blow. Yet Hiranyakashipu has a son Prahlada Maharaj, whose qualities are legendary eternally. Especially because he has tolerance, forbearance. People in this day and age are so intolerant, so quick to be offended, so quick on the draw, as it said. You know, in the Wild West movies, they still have Wild West movies? One cowboy gets angry at another cowboy. The one who's quickest on the draw wins. In India, they like cowboy movies? Garanga Mahan? Huh? It's always good to ask him such questions. He'll give an honest answer. Quick on the draw, that's what we are. How could you say this about me? If you're going to go the distance in Bhakti, you have to learn forbearance and tolerance. As Prahlada Maharaj demonstrates, because he's the pinnacle, the perfection of forbearance and tolerance. Not forbearance and tolerance just for the sake of it, but for Krishna's pleasure. An essential part of Bhakti is learning how to sacrifice for Krishna's pleasure. Sometimes Krishna puts you in situations in which you have to be tolerant and have forbearance for the sake of Krishna's service. So Prahlad is the pinnacle of that attainment of forbearance and tolerance. Because of his bhakti, because of Prahlad's bhakti, Lord Nrsimha appeared and was showing uncontrollable anger. How can the Supreme Personality of Godhead have uncontrollable anger? Sounds like something of a conditioned soul, uncontrollable anger. But Lord Nrsimha is showing you how much he cares for his devotee. And what was Prahlad thinking? Yes, be angry, tear him apart, kill him. Prahlad is making prayers, glorifying the Lord's mercy. Of course, Prahlad approves of whatever Lord Nrsimha does. Generally, if someone comes to kill your father, you would protest. But Prahlad He's offering beautiful prayers to Lord Nrsimha. He knows my father's got to go. He's a terrorist. He's caused so much pain, so much agony. Prahlad wasn't thinking he's trying to kill me, therefore he has to go. Prahlad is thinking this Hiranyakashipu has terrorized the whole universe. He's even trying to fight with the Supreme Personality of God in Nrsimha. But Prahlad didn't want vengeance. He wasn't in the mood of retribution. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like gotta strike back? I was discussing this in Adelaide with one devotee. In class, he asked the question, what about there sometimes when you're dealing with some devotees, you just wish Krishna, take him back to Godhead. That's a devotee way of saying, Terminator, take him back to God. Take him out. Take him out of the material world. Get him out of my sight. Prahlad did not have that spirit of retributions. After all his father's doing to him, trying to kill him this way, that way, the other way. And so then you get to the point where after Prahlad offers his wonderful prayers in the 9th chapter of the 7th canto, Lord Nrsimha says, Prahlad, ask me whatever benediction you want. It's my pastime to fulfill all desires. What would you say if you were put on the spot like that? Ask whatever you want. Prahlad's response was, my Lord, don't tempt me. You know my family background. I'm born in a family of demons, saturated with material desires. Please don't tempt me with material benedictions. I don't want that. Prahlad's only request. And the devotee has to have a request, but not for any material benediction. Prahlad's request was simply to purely engage in Krishna's service, in loving devotional service. He wants to be absorbed 24/7 in activities like what you're doing. What you're doing here is trying to please the Supreme Personality of God. Maybe it's not 24/7, but Prahlad wants 24/7. I just want to be flooded in devotional service, saturated with devotional service. That was the only benediction he wanted. But he said, if there's something I can ask for someone else, please have mercy, Nrsimha. Have mercy on my father. And Lord Nrsimha explained that because of the bhakti of Prahlad, so many generations forward and backward of his family would be free from material existence, all because of Prahlad's bhakti. How many generations? To what extent? Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati explains, according to the purity of the devotee, that's how many generations. For Kanistadhikari, third-class devotee, second-class devotee, first-class devotee, Mahabhagavad, the extent of the family members freed from material existence varies, according to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. We don't know how to explain to parents of devotees what benefit they're getting. They'll get because one of their children became a bhakta. You don't know the great benefit, the parents don't know. I always, when I meet parents of you all, I always remind them, you're going to get credit from all that your son or daughter does. they just kind of, what can they say? It's just doesn't compute for them. Sometimes parents have some, if they're from India, they have some understanding, some slight understanding of Bhakti, then they graciously accept that. Just like when I was at the airport the last time, where was I leaving? Was I in Wellington before? Yes, I was in Wellington coming from New Gupta Vraj. I have to think where I was. After the festival, I went from New Gupta Vraj to the airport. Who drove me? Bumsita. And so inside the airport, after we checked in, one gentleman approached me, Indian gentleman. It was Rasikananda Prabhu's father. Did he tell you? So I told him, I gave him my usual compliment. I said, well, if that's your son, if the fruit is good, the tree is good. He kind of looked at me wryly and said, I don't know about the fruit, but... But generally, parents have no idea how they're going to benefit. They can't conceive of it. Often parents hope that this is just a phase you're going through. This Krishna consciousness is bhakti. And gradually, one day, you'll come back to the real world of lust, anger, greed, madness, envy, and illusion. Money is the honey. One day you'll have your house by the sea, Kiwi style, up on a hill overlooking the sea. In the backyard there's macrocarpa furniture. In the trees are tui birds making beautiful sounds. So the parents are hoping one day you'll straighten up. Anyway, at least you're not harming anyone by this chanting Hare Krishna. So I always remind devotees of one letter Srila Prabhupada wrote. Giriraj Maharaj, he said, for the parents of his Western disciples who have no idea what their children are doing, or the value, at their last breath in the material world, they'll be able to see it all. The last breath. I told that to my mother. She didn't know what to make of it. So at your last breath, you'll finally figure out what I'm doing. She just kind of gave me a blank look. So Prahlad is concerned about his father, a father who did everything to kill him. His character and activities have delivered all the fallen members of his demoniac family. Actually, the Acharyas point out, remember how in Prahlad's prayers he said, I'm not afraid of material existence because I'm always drowning in the ocean of nectar, glorifying Krishna. But I do have anxiety for all the people suffering in the material world. I don't want to go back to Vaikuntha, and they stay. So the Acharyas point out that actually, just by the thinking of Prahlad, the whole universe emptied out. Then you say, what happens? Why is there still this material universe? Because the Jiva Shakti, the living entity potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always expanding, generating entities. So this universe emptied out, and it filled right up again. There's no limitation to numbers of Krishna's energy. So just by Prahlad's thinking, and that was what Lord Chaitanya told who? Vasudev Dutt. Vasudev Dutt appealed to Lord Chaitanya. let all the living entities in the universe go to the spiritual world. I'll take upon me all their sinful reactions. Inconceivable. I'll take upon myself all the sinful reactions of all the living entities in the universe. They can go to the spiritual world. I'll stay and suffer. This kind of compassion is inconceivable. So many of us take to Bhakti because we want to be free from suffering from all the reactions, the sinful activities we've done. And we're rightfully afraid of the material energy and its horrors, its catastrophes, its disasters. And here Vasudeva Dutt is saying, let me take upon myself the sinful reactions and the sufferings due from all living entities in the universe. Not simply those who believe in him. Not simply they'll be saved, according to Vasudeva Dutt. Whether you believe in me or not, give me your sinful reactions. Phew. So Lord Chaitanya heard this and was astonished. Such compassion that even Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of God, is astonished. And he points out, Vasudeva, you don't have to do this. You don't have to take upon yourself all the sinful reactions of everyone in the universe. All living entities, not just human beings, all living entities. You don't have to do that. Just by your desire, because you're a pure devotee of such caliber, just by your desire, Krishna can empty out the whole universe of conditioned souls. Just because you're thinking in this way. Similarly, Prahlad was thinking in that way. So Chaititova Mukha Chaitasa Indriyartha Maya Sukhaya Baram Udvahato Vimudan. My Lord, I'm in anxiety, I'm worried about the Vimudas, the super fools, who are carrying an unnecessary burden. Maya Sukhaya Baram. The unnecessary, the artificial burden of material happiness. I'm worried about them. I'm lamenting for them. They don't have to suffer like this, but they're doing it unnecessarily. All because of attachment to sense gratification. I'm concerned about them. I'm thinking of them. So Lord Chaitanya explained to Vasudeva that just by your thinking about these conditioned souls, they can be free from material existence because you are thinking of them. That's the caliber of your bhakti. And just to emphasize his point, what did Lord Chaitanya explain about the countless universes in the material world? He said, consider a mustard seed. How many of you have seen a mustard seed before? Do you use them in the kitchen? What's the biggest collection of mustard seeds you've seen? What, 25 kilo bag or Gora? Navagora you've seen? What's a 25 kilo bag at the shop or something? Oh, really? That many mustards, 25 kilo? Suppose in that bag of 25 kilos of mustard seeds, a mustard seed falls out. Do you panic? So that's what Lord Chaitanya said to Vasudeva Dutt. If out of a bag of mustard seeds, one mustard seed falls out, it's nothing. They're so tiny. Similarly, he said, if one whole universe is emptied out, if that whole material universe disappears, it's nothing for Krishna. The millions of other material universes. In fact, Lord Chaitanya said, even if the whole material energy would disappear, it's still nothing for Krishna. Not simply one universe or all the material universes, but if the whole material energy disappears, it's still nothing for Krishna. It's insignificant. This is the scale that we're operating on here. So this intent by Prahlad Maharaj is so important. This intent by Vasudev Dutt is so important. But also your intent is so important. By your intent, even though you might consider yourself just a tiny devotee, by your intent, you attract the attention of Krishna. So we read in the purport, the word Jagadisha refers to the proprietor of all the universes. As fundamental and elementary as this is, many people find it astonishing. The universe has a proprietor? Because whether you know it or not, it's been so ingrained in you that human beings are the proprietors. This world is ours for our enjoyment. Whenever you're expressing yourself, you're being creative. Whenever you're doing you, being me, you're being creative. That's what the world's meant for. The world is a stage for you to demonstrate your style, your individuality, your flair, your choices. The material world is yours and you are its enjoyer. This is the demoniac blood that's boiling in our veins, so to speak. The fact that the universe has a proprietor sounds so exotic to us. The word Jagadisha, Jagadish, refers to the proprietor of all the universes. What happens when you admit there's a proprietor? Just like when you're living in a rental house. If you've got any kind of common sense, you're careful about how you treat the house because you want your deposit back, right? Unless you're out of your right mind and constantly intoxicated, you're always concerned. Don't put blue tack on the walls because when you pull it off, the paint peels. You're always concerned about that because there's a proprietor. But when it comes to living in this world, no, we are the masters of our fate. What do I want to do? What do I consider right and wrong at this very moment? So many people, I think I'll try to explain at the Sunday Soul Fest. So many people think it's so wonderful that we can define and validate, both define and validate our life. Who am I? Well, that's up to me to figure out. What should I do? That's up to me to figure out. And what makes what I come up with authentic? Well, I'm self-validating. So it's like a closed loop. I create my identity and I sustain it. Sounds really cool, doesn't it? Really fashionable. I define myself, I validate myself. No need for me to have any regrets because what? I forgive myself. This is a great life. How many of you used to live like that? Don't raise your hands. But this is hard work. The propaganda is that living like this is so liberating. That's another buzzy syndrome. Liberating. Free your mind. Just be yourself. Do you. Be you. Be authentic to your own impulses. But you can always be sure, anytime someone's saying that they are being authentic to what they want to do and how they are, anytime they say that, they're just acting like someone else. So it's presented, if you can catch this, you'll save yourself a lot of trouble. It's presented that it's so liberating, it's so enthralling, it's so exhilarating to just define yourself and validate yourself. Be a self-validating entity. But this is actually hard work. Constantly you have to seek self-affirmation. Because such a way of life is so artificial and unreal, you're going to become depressed, overwhelmed with anxiety. You can't, as a tiny conditioned soul, you cannot carry the burden of being constantly self-defining and self-validating. It's too much, you go crazy. So what's your only recourse while you're going crazy? Intoxication. That's the fuel of Kali Yuga authenticity. So this is what you're dealing with today. Persons are groaning and crying under the load of self-definition and self-validation. They thought it was so liberating. So many of you thought it was so liberating. Creating and sustaining your own identity. Little kids look forward to being teenagers because they think teenagers are free, they're self-defining. The teenagers are looking forward to being in their 20s because they think, when I'm in my 20s, I'll have more money than I had when I was a teenager. More money means more choices. More choices means more authenticity. So the dreams are all lingering in the head. Meanwhile, at least here in New Zealand, same in Australia, no young person can afford their own house anymore. Look forward to a lifetime of rentals. The dream, like the Kiwi or the Aussie dream of a house with a white picket fence around it, the backyard, and it's all over. Unless you inherit from your parents, you can forget it. Meanwhile, the young people are dreaming, shall it be this career, that career? This partner, that partner. We'll do this, we'll do that. Meanwhile, the opportunities are shrinking. So what is the main problem of material existence? Prabhupada said this about Gita Nagari Farm. He said, at our Gita Nagari Farm project, the main problem of material existence is solved. What is that? Food. Food? What about a partner? How about a this or that, the other? The main problem of life is food. So in Prabhupada's worldview, he would always stress that sumptuous food is the real sense gratification of a human being. But because people don't know how to eat sumptuously, they can't understand. Just by growing and having fresh food, that's going to satisfy them, because they don't have it. So once you start thinking food as the main material problem to solve, everything else becomes clear. Real food, healthy food. That's all a human being needs. Some healthy food and a piece of cloth around the body. But because people don't have access to fresh, healthy, sumptuous food, they invent all these other kinds of sense gratifications. That's why we put so much emphasis here on sumptuous prasad. I like walking around during the time when devotees are taking prasad. And they just eat and eat and eat, talk and talk and talk and eat. And then you see them just, they're satisfied, at least at that moment. So when people look at traditional Indian life, they think it's so primitive. In a traditional Indian family, the woman is spending all day in the kitchen, cooking this, cooking that. How barbaric. But what's the result? Sumptuous food. I mentioned before, Srila Prabhupada explained, the happiness of Indian family life is eating. But because people think this is barbaric, this is prehistoric. No, happiness of life is video games or whatever else you can concoct. How can I be satisfied just with food? Food means you go to Burger King, go to McDonald's. You want to go up market a bit, you go to some Thai eatery. So we're reminding people, or we're reintroducing them to the reality that you can be satisfied with your sensory desires just by sumptuous prasad. That's why in the unfortunate case of devotees who may drop their bhakti practices, I always ask in astonishment to devotees who might have run into that person, how does he eat? Whatever you do, you don't give up prasad. In the old days, in the 70s, in the Hare Krishna centers, when everyone lived in an ashram, someone was weak and wanted to go into Maya, back to Maya, they would wait until Monday morning. They'd never leave on a Sunday. No one in their right mind would leave before Sunday. It's always Monday. That was the Exodus day. They want that feast. And there are devotees who've been around for 40 or 50 years. They tell me they just stuck around for decades, just living from one Sunday feast to the next. Okay, it's Monday. All right, 6 more days till next Sunday. And they hung on for 50 years like that. So try to understand how practical the bhakti lifestyle is. We understand the fundamental problem of existence is food. If you got good food, you're healthy and your senses are satisfied. That's why we have always had an emphasis on sumptuous cooking, and now we're putting the emphasis gradually on fresh food. You may think, well, when you have a farm, sometimes it produces huge amounts of sweet potatoes or cucumbers, and so that week you've got to eat all of them. But because it's fresh, it doesn't matter that it's the same thing you might eat 3 days in a row. We make it such a crime to eat the same thing 3 days in a row. But if it's good and fresh, you don't mind. But we're so used to varieties of junk food. So as I was saying, when Someone hears Prabhupada explain about traditional Indian life in the village. The woman's in the kitchen cooking all day. Oh, how chauvinistic, misogynistic. But the whole family is happy, eating. Of course, we cannot impose what was in the past. We can't impose that today. There has to be some intelligent applications. Don't worry. We're not going to have you all day in the kitchen. Everyone wants careers these days. We'll see how much the world supplies successful careers. We'll see. We can't live according to Vedic culture because we don't have Vedic culture. But at least we can know what the standard of real human civilization is. That's my point. Not that you try to go back 200 years. But at least you should understand. People are not happy today. They haven't made real progress. In spite of all the technological glitter, they're becoming more depressed and more anxious than ever. So at least we should know what the real standard of material life is. Successful material life is based on successful eating. Good fresh food, sumptuously cooked. That's material life, and when the food's offered to Krishna by a family of devotees, that is spiritual life. So we got onto this by talking about Jagadisha, the proprietor of all the universes. We're not accustomed to thinking like this, that something has a proprietor. Of course, what belongs to me, yeah, I understand that proprietorship. My car. My partner for the moment. But that the universe has a proprietor? Once you accept the universe as a proprietor, that means you have to act accordingly. We don't want that, so better to mythologize it. There's no proprietor. But just by understanding Jayadev Goswami's song, Dasavatar, Keshavadrita, Narahari Rupa, Jai Jagadisha Hare, you're recognizing there's a proprietor who takes different forms. There's the original Krishna who expands into different incarnations. Because different devotees want to relate to him in different ways. And also situations cause the Lord to appear in a certain form as his pleasure to handle a situation. He can even take the form of a boar to scoop up the earth planet from a dirty place. He can take the form of a fish to swim with pleasure in the waters of annihilation. Who enjoys it when a cyclone comes and there's massive flooding? But in those massive floods of the cosmic annihilation, Matsya Avatar is there enjoying swimming in the water. And because you can't do it, you think mythology. How tiny our world is. So this verse is teaching you what's going on in Hari Varsha. It talks about other varshas or residential districts of the universe. This is very educational. It's expanding the field of your sense perception. So let us meditate on this point. Although Krishna is the original person, one without a second, he assumes different forms just to satisfy his devotees or to execute a specific purpose. So finally, Lord Nrsimha asked Prahlad, take any benediction you want. It's my pastime to fulfill the desires of everyone, so certainly I'll fulfill your desire. And Prahlad said, please don't tempt me. You know my family background. I'm in the family of the greatest materialists. I don't want anything except the opportunity to be your servant. But if you want to do something for my father, please arrange that my father gets the best.